You may have heard that on Monday the temperature in Denver reached the 90s, and then on Tuesday it snowed there. Such a huge drop from the 90s one day to snow the next is very rare. And in fact, according to Alaska climatologist Brian Brettschneider, prior to yesterday it happened only 14 times since 1900 at a major observing site. Now, what about extreme temperature swings in Pennsylvania? Well, let me start with changes within a calendar day, the so-called diurnal range, the difference between the daily high and low. Here are the largest diurnal ranges since 1900 at a few places. Values range from 48 to 57 degrees. So these represent the biggest change within a calendar day at each of these cities. To explain, let me start with Williamsport here because it's an outlier. Now, on May 1st, 2018, the morning low was 34. But sunshine and warm breezes sent the temperature skyrocketing to 84 in the afternoon, a huge 50-degree jump. But at all the other locations, the big change went in the other direction. Now, at both Pittsburgh and Erie on January 6, 2014, temperatures peaked near 50 early in the morning, ahead of a cold front, but then fell behind the front, well below zero by midnight, and both places got more than an inch of snow from that Arctic front. Now, the largest diurnal range on record at both Harrisburg and Philadelphia was in January 1978, when temperatures flirted with 60 in the wee hours of the morning and then fell behind yet another Arctic cold front to just 12 by midnight. And both of those places got measurable snow. Finally, in Scranton, same idea, different date. March 28, 1921, 76 in the early morning, down to 23 by midnight, courtesy of, you guessed it, an Arctic cold front. Now, what about temperature drops from one day to the next? Sort of like Denver with its 62-degree drop from 93 on Monday to 31 on Tuesday. Well, I couldn't find any plunges that large in Pennsylvania that started with temperatures in the 90s, but I did find some that started in the 80s. And in fact, at Williamsport, Harrisburg, and Philadelphia, that same Arctic front in late March of 1921 was responsible, including a 61-degree drop in Williamsport. Meanwhile, in both Erie and Scranton, the biggest drop from one day to the next occurred with that January 2014 Arctic front that was just mentioned. In both places, it was a 58-degree drop. And finally, yet another Arctic front set the record in Pittsburgh, a 61-degree plunge over a two-day period in February of 1981. To finish, I'd like to compare the time of year when these big temperature drops occur in Pennsylvania with when they occur in Denver, which kind of represents the high plains. I looked at all occurrences of a temperature drop of at least 50 degrees from one day to the next at the cities we looked at in Pennsylvania and in Denver, and here are the percentages that occurred in each meteorological season. Both here and there, about half were in winter, and most of the rest in Pennsylvania were in spring, very little in fall. But in Denver, fall is the second most common season. There, very cold air has an easier time getting in unmodified, whereas here in Pennsylvania in the autumn, that air has to cross the Great Lakes, which temper the chill somewhat during the fall. Are any temperature plunges in our future? Stay tuned. The extended forecast is next.